Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about a really steady and growing drumbeat among retired judges, state and federal, for the, in their minds, really unprecedented, historic, and hugely corrosive uh, criticism and intimidation from Trump, the Trump administration, and the carryover into MAGA kind of crazies who are issuing death threats to judges at huge and record numbers. So in the last couple years, in the high water mark of Trump and Trump criticism, there have been 400 one year, 455 another. That's a lot of real sort of efforts to intimidate, not to mention effective efforts. Judges, if you think about it for a moment, first, they are strictly told, certainly the federal judges, not to comment on public matters, not to respond. So they get pilloried in really inane in addition to illegitimate ways. You have, so just, most recently in this story, one of the two main public spokespeople for the administration, there's Catherine Levitt, who you see, and then Abigail Jackson. They are both, no law degree, kids, really, no policy training, no nothing except experience as, being at the shoulders of different conservative or MAGA leaders and learning the sort of, vitriolic, teeth-bared rhetorical playbook. So, just sort of spouting that out. So here, for example, the response to this pretty eye-popping article, all these judges, retired judges to be sure, but coming out, judges, state, federal, Republican, Democrat, and really expressing grave alarm at what the administration is doing. You have the White House official response to all these grave concerns, not being maybe a modicum of respect, or we respectfully understand, but XYZ. It's just, complete trash talk. It's the unlawful lower court rulings. The real threat to the rule of law, says White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson, are these lower court judges who are consistently ignoring the law in service of their own personal political agenda. It's a woman who wouldn't know the law based on her background if it ran over her. So the reality is, with over 20 Supreme Court victories, the administration's policies have been consistently upheld as lawful. That's just a flabbergasting lie. They've been shot down again and again and again and again, largely at the district court level. But the Supreme Court reversals, as important and in certain instances really pivotal as they've been, don't begin to cover the overall ledger in which the administration is way, way, way in the loss column. So it's, just a complete ignorant pushback. Anyway, and you have, judges who toil in their own worlds and aren't on the hustings talking about the rule of law, but feel like they're being really attacked, and that the attacks are furthering not just their own personal vulnerabilities, but the rule of law itself. So Allison Duncan, retired from the Court of Appeals, said, the public often fails to see the consequences of a weakened rule of law and diminishing judicial branch until it is too late. And that's certainly true in other countries that have gone from democracy to some form of authoritarianism. So it's the sort of big impact here is the chorus of voices, state, federal, Democrat, Republican, and the really alarming spiking levels of threats. And this is just, by the way, of federal judges, because it's records that are kept by the Marshal Services. But 400 federal judges received threats between October 1st, 2024 and this last September 30th. And, it all traces. It's clear to the kind of just reflexive trashing from Trump and others, and just the equation of any ruling against them with what must be politicized, lawless, completely irresponsible rulings by the federal judges. And, these are by people who haven't read a word of it. And, in fact, all these rulings are very much being, virtuously, heroically, even in the current times, upholding the rule of law. There's, by the way, also a special kind of criticism and sense of concern about the Supreme Court's prolific use of the shadow docket, and how especially it's kind of pulling the rug out from under district courts who, it's not easy to stand. It's we don't have to give them special kudos. It's their job. It's their oath. But standing up against a totally politicizing, ideological administration that's trashing him in the press and doing the right thing, then when the Supreme Court comes along and undoes it without explanation, and you don't even know what to do when it comes back, and the administration, touts a certain vindication and the like, that's obviously really sticking in the craw of lower federal court judges. So look, it's, one of a whole, it's all of a piece with the real assaults on the rule of law from this administration. And it's just one aspect of it, but it's a striking one. You basically never see judges talking like this, and you rarely see former judges talking like this. They stay out of, their instinct is to stay out of the political fray. You even now have, a couple weeks ago, you had the retirement of a prominent federal judge in order that he could give his views and be out in the public sphere, where when he was wearing a robe, he wasn't permitted. That's how sort of alarming and emergent the many members of the judiciary see the whole situation as. How do you sound the alarm bell? What Judge Wolf decided is, if I've got to retire from my post, it's just that's what I got to do, because people just got to fully understand the nature of these risks. So, as I say, part of an overall chorus, but it's really I've never seen this kind of consensus among different judges, and it stands to reason, because no one's ever seen this kind of assault on the rule of law and trashing of any and every judge, and endangering any and every judge for the supposed dereliction of what? Ruling against the Trump administration and its long list of lawless enactments that overreach their constitutional powers. So this would be for another day, but it's also a total page out of the playbook in other countries. A good example would be Hungary, where they just completely belittle and diminish the judiciary until they're basically in their pocket, plus seeding the vacancies with the sorts of complete loyalists that Trump is also looking to do. So it's all totally of a piece with what's going on. You have, notwithstanding that, this really kind of stand firm, a heroic record of a lot of district court judges. But this just shows the pressure. The Washington Post calls it incredible pressure that the judges report they feel under, given an administration that's just irrationally, purposely, ideologically just completely trashing them in the eyes of the American people. Hard times to be a judge, critical times to be a judge, and the country's, going to be eternally grateful for the judges who have held the line, notwithstanding the huge onslaught from the administration. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.